I mean, United Healthcare implemented an AI algorithm that rejected 90% of claims inaccurately. 90% of Medicare claims for surgeries were getting rejected inaccurately, right? Which drove up their profits. They're having double-digit profit growth right now. When you asked about how profitable they are, for the last 5 years, they've doubled their stock price. So you also got to not just think about monthly, it's revenue and profits, but it's also what is your shareholder return on investment and what are your stocks doing? And if we look at that, guess who owns the majority of the big 5 insurance companies? No. BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Guess who owns the majority of the pharmaceutical companies? It's BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street. Guess who owns the majority of the media outlets? It's BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street.
Yeah.
Do you start to sense a trend here?
I do.
And guess who funds and lobbies more than anybody? The pharmaceutical industry, followed by, one of the top players is the health insurance industry. And then you've got these big conglomerates that are funding all of this. So there's so many levers we can pull to generate revenue off of these individuals that it's staggering. And so they absolutely know, and it makes it very, very hard. There's no alternative. Like if I'm a hospital, I can't afford to lose Blue Cross Blue Shield. I can't afford to lose United Healthcare. I'm out of business. Like in the state of Texas, Blue Cross Blue Shield is 30% of your revenue. So I'll tell you in a real world example, I owned a pharmacy and I still do own pharmacies, but I don't take insurance. Like our model now is we refuse to take insurance because if I don't take insurance, I can tell the patient the real price. I can get rid of all the games, all the fuzzy numbers, and I can just say, hey, it cost me this. I'm going to sell it to you for that. I'm going to mail it to your doorstep. It's that simple.
Why aren't there more pharmacies like that?
They're springing up. They are coming up. And I think it's taking the American people. So many people think, well, my insurance should cover it. And I try to explain, they're going to cover it, but there's a price to pay. And that price to pay is way more than dollars. They are going to make you chronically ill and make money off you. And oftentimes you're spending more than you would to just pay cash for the compound. Here's an example. I also owned labs and I owned a blood lab, and I went out and I educated clinicians in the state of Texas on the importance of preventative care. My elevator pitch was the 5 chronic diseases that are killing so many Americans. How do we stop them? We don't let them develop in the first place. And how do we do that? We do that through getting proactive and predictive. And how do we do that? We do that by taking a look under the hood. Do you just go out and romp on a car without changing the oil or maintaining it? No, you take care of the vehicle.
Right.
We have to take care of our bodies. And the only way to do that is to do the deep dive annually and to understand a basic checkup in America is a lipid panel. They're looking at 4 or 5 things. They're looking at nothing. You can't get anything out of that. To do a deep dive, you look at over 70 biomarkers. Now I'm looking at your blood work and I can tell, like I said earlier, are you headed towards diabetes? And if you are, we can intervene. We can act now before you become diabetic. But what the insurance model does is they wait for you to become diabetic. Why? It costs 6-fold to keep you alive every year once you're diabetic because they're getting paid off the insulin. There's an incentive for them to let you become diabetic.
It's
you show you the incentives, I'll show you the outcomes. We've got to pivot this and shift this. So I would educate doctors on the importance of blood work. And I would tell them, let's get proactive and predictive and let's prevent chronic disease. Doctors start implementing this in their practice. Within months, clinicians, all of them, got letters from the insurance companies. Hey, Dr. So-and-so, we noticed you're pulling a lot of blood work. We don't like this. We don't think there's medical necessity here. Hold on now. Where did you go to fucking med school? Yeah. 2, who are you to tell a clinician what they do with a patient life? 3, that patient paid you their hard-earned money for the right and accessibility to care. 4, you're doing this purely out of evil necessity for profit and greed. That's all this is. There's no reason not to get a comprehensive blood panel at least once a year to be able to do a deep dive. So clinicians stop pulling the blood work. That's throughout the United States. Doctors are terrified. They are not going to fight the insurance companies because the insurance companies control everything. And so when we talk about corporate capture, you've got the big pharmaceutical companies that have captured the FDA. You've got the big insurance companies that have captured and colluded with FBI and DOJ, which I'll get into here in a second. They've also captured our hospital systems and our clinicians. There are no private primary care practices anymore because insurance cut their reimbursements, forced them to go work as employees of the hospital. Now they've funneled all of the sheep into one location so the wolves can pick them off. And now these doctors are basically fall in line or lose your job. And so doctors fall in line.
There are no independent primary care
There's very
physicians?
few independent primary cares that are in an insurance model anymore. Most of those have gone to work for huge HMOs and like Blue Cross Blue Shield bought Kelsey Siebel, I believe, so the other thing they're doing is they're vertically integrating and capturing our systems. So like where I was going earlier with the blood work is they basically deny the blood work, bully the clinician to not pull the blood work. So then the doctors don't ever do the deep dive. So they can't prevent the chronic disease. So then the other end is, as a pharmacy owner, I would bill and collect and I would ship out hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in medications a month, crucial life-saving medications for patients. Blue Cross Blue Shield, true story, said, they quit paying me. And I shipped out, I think, over $1 million in prescription medications in a month in the state of Texas. You go to negotiate, say, hey, what happened? You guys didn't pay me this month. I have $1 million that I've shipped to your patients. Yeah, we don't think you collected copays and deductibles. Okay, well, we did. We collected 98%. Okay, well, we'll come audit you. Okay, how soon can you be here? 3 months. What? I can't ship out $3 million in drugs and float you guys. I'm not a bank. And they do that throughout the industry. The hospitals are floating the bills. It's 90 days on average to get reimbursed, anywhere from 60 to 90 days to get reimbursed on a surgical procedure. Then when patients say, why do I have such a big copay? It's another method to discourage you from having surgery and to force you back to the drugs that they're making money on.
Interesting. So I mean, doctors were associated with surgery. That's why they're called sawbones. Mm-hmm. Psychiatrists were, talkers. Let's talk about your mother. Yeah. The whole system, every part of medicine seems totally focused on drugs now.
Yeah. Now, there's still a lot of money in surgery, but it is a loss leader for these insurance conglomerates. And so they put obstructions between you, deny, delay, depose, right? So they delay your ability to get the care. They make you jump through all these hurdles before you finally get approval. United Healthcare denied over 30%, 1/3 of claims. And actually 2 years ago, they denied 37% of claims. 37%. That's not 1/3. That's almost half. Like, let's be honest. And all the meanwhile, and what that means is people are dying. It doesn't mean like, oh, shucks, these aren't aesthetic procedures. These are life-changing procedures that people are desperate for, that they paid for, and you're denying them. And do you know what percentage of people fight the claim? 10%. 10%. People are tired.
How do you fight a claim?
You have to go to your doctor and write letters and push back and go get second opinions and take time off from your busy job to go try and battle an insurance company. And then even if you get the procedure approved and everything's hunky-dory and you go have the surgery, they're going to tell you who to go to, where to go, and then they're going to take 90 days to pay the hospital back or the surgery center back. And that surgery center holds the bill. But here's where it gets even more fucked up. They set the copays and deductibles. Sorry, am I allowed to cuss? I didn't even ask you that.
Yeah.
Okay. They set the copays and deductibles. And so oftentimes your employer offers you 10 different plans. Like I employ 300 plus people. And so I let my employees choose the plan. They have an option between like 10 different plans. My young people will usually choose a plan that has a bigger out-of-pocket expense.
For sure.
Maybe a $10,000 deductible on a surgery. The way they word the insurance contracts, they make you, the hospital, or me, the lab. Like when I had a genetics lab, there were times I had to go after the patient for a $5,000 deductible, right? I don't want to. It's not what I don't want to play, collection agent on a patient. But the way they word the contract is, if I didn't collect the copay or deductible, they have recourse. They can deny the claim and never pay me for the procedure, the surgery, or the lab screening that I did. And so I have to show a reasonable effort to collect. And if I don't, they can do an array of things. They can deny the claim. They could come back and say, we're going to do an audit. this is where we get into depose, right? Deny, delay, depose. The depose of the situation is, let's say I did that spine procedure, and let's say this kid's out-of-pocket expense on it was $10,000, and he doesn't have the money. Well, I'm required by law to go after him and make a reasonable effort to collect. But in the fine print of my contract with United Healthcare, they're going to say, if they uncover that I didn't collect the copay or deductible, they can deny the claim and never pay me for the surgery. And so I have to chase it. So then now you get into a dispute with United, or like I did with Blue Cross Blue Shield, where they just don't pay me. If I sue them, they're going to depose. They're going to dig into every time I didn't collect a copay or deductible, and they're going to argue that they have a contractual ground to stand on, that they don't owe me the money. It's almost like a lie agreed upon. They're not, they wait until the deficit gets big, and then they put you out of business. And then what happens? Hey, it's tough out there for a small privately held pharmacy. We're actually buying pharmacies right now. Would you like to sell to us? Aetna owns, or CVS Health owns Aetna. CVS Health owns CVS Pharmacies. CVS Health owns the PBM. All of that's vertically integrated. They set the price point. They set the copay. They set the reimbursement. They set the deductible. They also own mail pharmacies, like mail order pharmacies, and they will tell patients, oh, we can get you this drug cheaper if you'll go to our mail pharmacy, in an effort to cannibalize and monopolize that patient life so nobody else has access to them. And so they can't see behind the curtain to find out that they're really getting screwed, that they never should have been paying that price point on the drug in the first place. And so like one of the things we're doing at my pharmacy is we disclose pricing. Like you could search and find out what the real wholesale price is on any drug and research that. And to show a real world example of how dirty this is, Tucker, and if any of it's too much, let me know. I can tailor this to whatever.
No,
because it's a lot. Okay, the state of Ohio launched an investigation, hired 32 forensic auditors. Just the state of Ohio, just Medicare, just Medicaid, sorry. Guess what they found? $230 million in fraud from the insurance companies in 1 year through gap pricing, what they're calling gap pricing, the whole Ponzi scheme I just explained.